Winnipeg Jets trade rumors and reports are really starting to heat up as a report has dropped revealing a very interesting trade target. We're going to break down exactly who that trade target is and discuss the trade that they have proposed surrounding a Winnipeg Jets defenseman that has Jets fans fired up this season. So stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, if you're a part of the 94% who aren't subscribed on Jets Digest, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I know the Jets have been not playing as well as of late. We're going to continue, providing daily Jets content and news for you all. So make sure to hit that button. If you're over on Hattrick HQ, smash that subscribe button as well. There's a ton to go over today. Most importantly, first of all, the Jets got a big win yesterday in overtime. So we'll go over that a little bit. But the talking point now is for today is going to be a defenseman via trade. There's been some rumors circulating around. You can see this here. Rumor alert. The Winnipeg Jets are linked to Pittsburgh defenseman Marcus Pettersson. And there is a mock trade, which we'll go over here in a minute. But I just want to get your thoughts on this first and foremost, because the Winnipeg Jets and, of course, the Pittsburgh Penguins have been actively known, at least earlier in the the weeks, to be shopping their players, shopping their defensemen. And Marcus Pettersson, we've been talking about how the Winnipeg Jets, if they had one area to improve on, it would be the defense. And that's even more amplified now that Dylan Samberg's gone out and you're seeing some struggles between some of the blue liners. What are your thoughts on Marcus Pettersson in a trade to the Winnipeg Jets? I think he's a very interesting target if you're a Jets fan.
Well, we've thrown it out there before, and I think his name's been thrown out there a lot recently because we know that Kyle Dubas has come out and said that if your name is not Sidney Crosby, you are up for grabs if you play for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And a lot of people, don't think that a lot of the top end talent is going to go, but this is a guy, and we'll get into his contract structure, salary, what a trade would look like in a second. But this is a guy who needs a contract extension next year. He's a really good defenseman. He's very good. We'll get into that as well. Obviously not a top tier defenseman in the league or anything, but he's a defenseman that can really help out majority of teams in the league, and especially the Winnipeg Jets, I believe. So I think it's a very interesting fit, and I think that it could be the fit for the Winnipeg Jets because of what they could send back in return that Pittsburgh may be looking at, which is, they want some younger prospects. They might be okay with some draft picks. The criteria keeps changing and things keep changing in Pittsburgh as the season goes along. But I think it's a very interesting fit for the Winnipeg Jets, a team that probably needs defense at this point. We've seen it, right? They've been on a bit of a losing skid here. Their record is still great, but obviously they've fallen out of first place, which is fine. They're right there. They're still in the mix, but they do need some defense help, I think. And if it's not now, it's coming before the trade deadline. So I think, sooner rather than later, maybe you jump on a asset like this. And I think that the return, again, won't be anything too significant.
Yeah, we'll dive into a return here in a minute. But first, of course, again, he's a very interesting player. And this rumor has been circulating for the past few weeks, and it makes a lot of sense for both sides. The Jets are looking to add a top four defenseman to their roster, and Pettersson would be the perfect fit. He is big, strong, left-handed, who can play in all situations. He's also a very good puck mover and has a strong offensive game. When you're looking at the current Jets blue line, it's an intriguing lineup to have. Josh Morrissey, Neil Pionk, Hayden Fleury, Dylan DeMello, Logan Stanley, Ville Heinola. And this changes from day to day. We've seen, Josh Morrissey not be paired with Neil Pionk. We've seen, of course, Dylan DeMello get paired with Morrissey. We've seen a bunch of different things. But as you look into this blue line before we get into the actual mock trade here, I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on how specifically Marcus Pettersson could fit as a puck-moving and a solid defenseman into this group. And right now you're looking at these guys. Three of them are really not fringe NHL by any means, but not as proven as, NHL regulars as they had before with Dylan Samberg. I'm talking about Hayden Fleury, Logan Stanley, and Ville Heinola. They've all shown flashes, but specifically, Logan Stanley's shown flashes throughout his career, hasn't had a great year. Hayden Fleury, he's in his late 20s. Like, he is what he is at this point. I think for a Stanley Cup team, they prefer an upgrade there. And then Ville Heinola, he's still young and early into his career. So I think for a team that's trying to compete for a cup here, they could use some more certainty, specifically on those in the top two pairings.
Yeah, and I think especially the top two pairings, and I'll get to that in a second, but in terms of the entire defense core, I think there's only really one job up for grabs right now if everyone is healthy, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think Marcus Pettersson's a guy who can come in and play top 4 minutes. And again, Dylan Samberg's out right now, but if you were to move him down to the third pairing or even have Marcus Pettersson on your third pairing, that really solidifies the defense just that much more. It would be really, really good for the Winnipeg Jets. So I think he can slot into the top 4 there, maybe playing with Neil Pionk, right? And again, they're switching up the lines as you see here right now. This is the current lines. They've been switching things up because they've been losing, obviously. But as we move forward and guys get healthier, I think you'd like to see Colin Miller come back into the lineup. And then I think that there's really maybe only one job up for grabs. And if you trade for Pettersson, maybe there isn't any jobs up for grabs, and maybe, you know, Logan Stanley would take a seat, because I think if you're getting a guy like Marcus Pettersson, that is a significant upgrade over a guy like Logan Stanley in that spot. So it would really help solidify their defense. I think they're really only one piece away. We've seen the way that they play when they're all healthy. And again, nobody's really healthy in the playoffs, but when they're healthy, or if they have everyone in the lineup, I don't know if they need too much forward depth or help up there in terms of a trade. I think that they're pretty good up there. Maybe, you know, they could add at the trade deadline just some depth just in case. But in terms of defense, I think they're one piece like a Marcus Pettersson away from really being able to solidify the entire team.
We've also seen how much losing Dylan Sandberg has hurt the team. The record has been significantly worse since then. That's, of course, not all because they lost Dylan Sandberg. They haven't been playing as well. They also haven't really... they're dealing with some injuries, whether that's Mark Scheifele, like I mentioned, Dylan Sandberg, some guys like that dealing... Nikolai Ehlers now dealing with ailments. So it's interesting. And I want to dive into... You mentioned how it might not cost a lot. I want to dive into Marcus Pettersson. You can see this here. He has a $4 million cap hit. He's a UFA, pending UFA. So the Jets have a current about $2 million in current projected cap space. Our current cap space is 2.8. Again, reliable defenseman who can play big minutes against tough competition. Perfect complement to Pionk, which is something interesting. You could see a pairing there. This will give the Jets a much more balanced blue line. It'll make them a much tougher team to play against. I think all of those things we agree with. They need to add a blue liner, especially with Dylan Sandberg. We were talking about having them need to add a blue liner prior to Dylan Sandberg getting hurt. And Dylan Sandberg was not the flashiest guy. You could argue not as good as Pettersson and not as skilled as Pettersson, but he really was the glue guy for this defense, of course, alongside Pionk and Morrissey. But let's dive into this. A potential trade could look something like this. And this is Marcus Pettersson for Logan Stanley and a 2025 first-round pick. So the Penguins get a first. The Jets get their defenseman. And, of course, for a lot of you Jets fans out there, you get to rid of Logan Stanley. So what are your thoughts on this? If you're the Penguins, you're getting a first, and you're getting, in theory, a defenseman that's fairly young, mid-20s, has upside of being a solid defenseman, maybe in a different situation, or maybe given some more, playing time here, or a longer leash on a non-cup contending team. What are your thoughts on this deal?
It's interesting, right? Logan Stanley, I'm not sure the Pittsburgh Penguins would want a guy like Logan Stanley back in return. I could see it happening, but I don't think that's exactly what they want in return for a player like this, because if they are shopping Marcus Pettersson, especially league-wide, I think that they are expecting probably a younger player, maybe a prospect, maybe a guy who can plug into the lineup right now. I think that's what they're preferring, younger guys who can go and play on the team right now in the NHL. And that is not exactly this. Logan Stanley is not necessarily a prospect anymore. First round pick, I think, is a bit steep as well. I think they're expecting, a younger player who can plug into their lineup and a pick, but a first round pick in Logan Stanley might be able to get it done. The first round pick might be able to get it done on itself. I think that Pittsburgh would be pretty happy with that. And Logan Stanley, again, it would be removing him from the Winnipeg Jets lineup, which I think a lot of fans would be happy with, because obviously you'll replace him with Marcus Pettersson. That's a significant upgrade in my eyes, especially because Pettersson's been in the league for quite a while as well. Logan Stanley's been here for a minute too, but it doesn't look like he's progressing the way that I think all Jets fans and obviously the coaching staff would like. So again, it's a significant upgrade, and first round pick is steep. I think they can get him for maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Pettersson's around 28 years old. Not that much older than Logan Stanley in the grand scheme of things. And again, you look at his stats, he's very solid this year. So it's going to be interesting to see. 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points, 28 years old. I think a package, I think the first here makes up for the Logan Stanley, the young player. I think you're either going to get, first and someone not as good like Logan Stanley, and I'll maybe propose out there, let us know down below what your thoughts are, a third and Ville Heinola, something of a nature like that, a guy who's a bit more younger or something of that nature. I know a lot of Jets fans probably won't like that. He is a pending UFA. I think that would be an overpay. That being said, if if the Jets are not super high on Ville Heinola, maybe it's a fourth in Ville Heinola, a package centered around Ville Heinola, and they're confident that they can re-sign Marcus Pettersson. Maybe that's something that they entertain. But let us know down below what your thoughts are on all of this. And again, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest Jets news. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. And we'll see you guys later.